Welcome to Rich Planet TV. I'm Richard D. Hall. Are you enjoying your curfew? Are you enjoying your imprisonment? Are you enjoying having your freedom removed? Are you enjoying a little taste of fascism? It's not possible to get reliable data on how many people are ill or whether people are dying, but some reports that I've seen suggest there are no more deaths or illnesses occurring at this time than we would expect at any other time. It appears deaths of people who are old or unhealthy, who would have died anyway, are being classed as COVID deaths, and people with regular cold or flu symptoms are being classed as COVID patients. Figures being quoted by mainstream media, as usual, have been plucked out of thin air. Anyone who is quoting numbers or showing graphs of cases or deaths have no way of knowing that their data is correct. Andrew Johnson has looked up figures from the Office of National Statistics on the total number of deaths in England and Wales in the first 3 months of 2017, 18, 19 and 20. The results do not strongly support the conclusion that COVID-19 is an epidemic or a pandemic, and figures from other countries show similar numbers. People are reporting that hospitals are not overly busy. I don't see evidence of a disease spreading in the population. Do you? I see evidence of the mainstream media making a poor job of pretending this is what's happening. Besides all that, medical science's explanation of how certain diseases occur is highly questionable. Do diseases physically spread? Does a disease physically transfer from one person to another, then sometime later from that person to a third person? I do not believe that is how it works. Diseases are caused or triggered by environmental factors, i.e. things that are toxic, or psychological factors, or poor health. In a presentation shared by Andrew Johnson and referenced recently by David Icke by Dr. Andrew Kaufman, he lays out the reasons why he believes that what they are calling the coronavirus is already recognized in science as exosomes, which are emitted by cells in times of stress, meaning exosomes are not passed from one person to another. If diseases do not physically jump from person to person, as I suspect, all the current lockdown and distancing measures are totally unnecessary. If diseases do jump from person to person, then, according to mainstream medical science, allowing this to happen would build up immunity in the population. So whichever case is true, the current measures are totally unnecessary. I do not believe lives are being saved by being made to stand outside the chip shop while waiting to be served my fish and chips. I do not believe lives are being saved by closing every single pub in the country, including the Grey Horse in concert. I do not believe lives are being saved by people wearing face masks. It took 5 years before people took those stupid red noses off the front of their cars. Are people going to be wearing Hannibal Lecter face masks for the next 5 years? The building trade is grinding to a halt. This is madness. This is fascism. This is an abuse of human rights. The lockdown has got bugger all to do with saving lives. Let's look at some possibilities for the real reason why these lockdown measures have been imposed. A key person I think we need to look at, who I suspect is the architect of the criminal corona curfew, is Bill Gates, who appeared recently on BBC Breakfast News. Gates has not been elected, he has no medical qualifications, and he is not British. Yet, the BBC spoke to him as if his word on this issue was somehow the word on this issue. Here is some of what Bill Gates said.
The thing that'll get us back to the world that we had before coronavirus is the vaccine and getting that out to all 7 billion people. So we're going to have to take something that usually takes 5 or 6 years and get it done in 18 months. There is an approach called an RNA vaccine that people like Moderna, CureVac, and several others have that looks quite promising, but we can't count on that. So we'll back 4 or 5 of those and 4 or 5 companies using a more conventional approach. The people like myself and Tony Fauci are saying 18 months. If everything went perfectly, we could do slightly better than that, but there will be a trade-off. We'll have less safety testing than we typically would have, and so governments will have to decide, do they indemnify the companies and really say, let's go out with this? We weren't ready for this pandemic, but I do think we will be ready for the next pandemic, and using the new tools of science, that's very, very doable. Funding the research for these type of vaccines, actually our foundation is the biggest funder of vaccines for infectious disease.
Do you think things will go back to normal, or is that all changed?
No, once you have a safe and effective vaccine and get that out to almost all of the people on the planet and build the preparatory systems for the next pandemic so you can nip it in the bud, we will go back to normal.
I'm looking at getting statement analysis done on Bill Gates, but for now, here are my own thoughts at this time. Many people are claiming that Bill Gates' objective is to depopulate the planet. In other words, the vaccines he is involved in developing are going to create infertility or even kill large sections of the population. I was interested in these claims, so I decided to examine some of Bill Gates' previous interviews to see if I could find any clues about depopulation.
Let's go to a couple questions that we've actually received since we started the webcast. The first is on population growth, and the question is, one of our most pressing issues is population growth. How do you expect this to be addressed?
Well, the population growth issue at the global level is not that daunting. That is, the population percentage-wise is growing slower today than in the past, and so it will actually peak out. The problem is that the population is growing the fastest where people are less able to deal with it. So it's in the very poorest places that you're going to have a tripling in population by 2050. And so their ability to feed, educate, provide jobs, stability, protect the environment in those locations mean they're faced with an almost impossible problem. Northern Nigeria, Yemen, Chad. And so what we need to do is take this aid generosity and this innovation and go into those places, offer the women better tools where they want to space birthing or have a smaller family size, and improve health, because it's amazingly, as children survive, parents feel like they'll have enough kids to support them in their old age, and so they choose to have less children.
I don't think that clip proves much. He is saying that in poor countries where people have large families, if you improve the health of those countries and reduce the childhood death rate, families would no longer need to have as many children. That seems like a reasonable argument to me. If you know of any other Bill Gates quotes which suggest he might be interested in depopulation, please email them to me. The second point is about Bill Gates' father, who was apparently interested in eugenics. He served on the board of Planned Parenthood, which was a rebranded organization birthed out of the American Eugenics Society. Planned Parenthood was built on population control schemes and allied with the same groups who wanted genetic hierarchy laws to preserve humanity and who sought to beautify countries by stopping the unfit from reproducing. To me, this sounds worrying. Let's bear it in mind as we proceed. If we're going to understand what's going on with the current despicable situation, we need to look closely at Bill Gates and try and explain his modus operandi. Bill Gates is often referred to as a philanthropist. I disagree with this description. I do not believe that Bill Gates gives out a single dollar of his money unless there is a possibility that by giving away that dollar, he might get more than his dollar back. I suspect all of his philanthropic activities to save lives and improve global health are intended to be money-making activities in the long run. I listened to a number of Bill Gates interviews listed here. In them, he speaks about his various health projects with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that he started in 2000. In the interviews, I could not find anything that made me think he was being motivated by a wish to depopulate the planet. Bear with me here while I make my point. He comes across as though he is, to a reasonable degree, seeking to develop new treatments and techniques, including vaccines, which he claims, and which he perhaps believes, can be argued will assist humanity. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, it is claimed, has committed money to infectious disease control, malaria control, STDs, HIV and AIDS, TB, reproductive health care, etc. It has put money into Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, which is committed to immunization of poor countries. It has put money into the World Health Organization and many other organizations.